Again, hello and welcome. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us for the NSPA webinar today. We have a great turnout and look forward to an informative presentation on key changes to the SAT assessment. My name is Maggie Brubaker, and I'm the new Membership and Programs Manager at NSPA. Also with me, Sarah Hughes, the NSPA Operations and Communications Coordinator. Let me find my second slide. I would also like to welcome and introduce today's presenter, Jim Bonner. Jim is the Educational Manager with the College Board's Higher Education Division in the Western region. Prior to joining the College Board, Jim spent 9 years working at the University of San Diego as the Associate Director of Operations and in recruitment within the Office of Admissions. Jim currently resides in San Diego, California, and managed the states of Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, as well as parts of California for the College Board. There are a few technical items I'd like to go through before we begin. First, don't worry, you are muted, so feel free to have your lunch, chat with colleagues, whatever you need to do. If you have a question, you can submit it on the console, on the bottom of your console, which is in the top right-hand corner of your screen. If you go down to the bottom, you'll see questions and chat. You can submit your questions there, and we will, or Jim will answer them at the end of the webinar. If you've missed a few slides, don't worry. We are recording this session, so it will be posted on our website in the members only section. And if you're tuning in and you're not a member, please, you're welcome to find out more about joining on our website or by contacting me. And then the technical information in terms of the webinar. Like I said, the console is the top right-hand corner of your screen. This orange arrow right here expands or collapses your console. So if you expand it, you'll see all the functions that are available. And without further ado, I'll now turn the webinar over to Jim.
Thanks, Maggie. All right. Switch screens here. Okay, can you see my screen all right?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning if you're here on the West Coast, like myself. As Maggie said, my name is Jim Bonner. I work for the College Board in their Higher Ed division here. As you said, I cover most of the Rocky Mountain states. And my role on the College Board working with the higher education team is to really work with admissions offices in the colleges to help them with their enrollment plans, really make sure they have the tools and resources to meet their enrollment goals on the annual basis. So today we are here to learn a little bit more about the redesigned SAT. I'm sure a lot of people have been hearing rumors or hearing presentations, hearing even things on the radio. I was actually going grocery shopping yesterday and heard on NPR some changes of the redesigned SAT, so it's exciting to hear that it's getting national exposure there because it's important and it's a change that's going to affect not only students but a lot of, again, colleges and scholarship organizations as well. A big part of why the change, before we jump into what the changes actually are, has to do with when our College Board President, David Coleman, came on board. When he joined the College Board as our new leader, he really took a step back to look at the assessments and what we were doing to really promote education for our students. And there is a really troubling notation in terms of a really stagnant benchmark. If you look at the slide here, the 42% of SAT test takers only met the benchmark, which for what we calculate a benchmark is on the current SAT scale of 2,400 points, is to be a score of roughly 1550, which equates to a predictive value of what students will do to earn at least a B average in their first year GPA of college. And so since less than 50% of students are meeting that benchmark, and this number has been stagnant over the years, he wanted to really tackle this not only from redesigning an assessment that really ties into what students are actually learning in the classroom, providing a really strong assessment to that, but also tackling this from the high school side as well, and really working with our K-12 partners to make sure that instruction is really meeting where students need to be college ready and career ready as well by the time they graduate. Another big factor into this is that when students are entering college, there's a really scary number that over 30% of students do require remediation in at least one course of their first year of college. And that number jumps all the way over to 40% for students going into the two-year public institution. And that's really important because when students have to take remedial courses, that affects not only their time to degree, but also the overall affordability of college in order to get that degree that they are seeking. And so at the College Board, we, as I said, are tackling this from a number of different ways, but a lot of this is tied into what we call the College Board Readiness and Success System. So this is really 4 components that really represent some of the unmatched benefits that we provide to students, educators, states, and districts, which really include focused and clear, useful assessments that reflect what students are already learning in the classroom, free, personalized, focused practice resources for all students, college opportunities through scholarship, fee waivers, and AP credit, as well as career opportunities through powerful career planning partnerships and a focus on coding and the STEM areas. And I'll actually jump into all 4 of these right now. And so when we look at focused assessments, what should I focus on? So the College Board, we are working to make excellence easier through focused, clear, and useful assessments that reflect what students are already learning in the classrooms, as I said. The redesigned assessment focuses on the few durable things that evidence show matters most for college and career success, and focus on what is really familiar to students in the classroom today. So that's going to really be focused on the best instruction in math, English language arts, science, history, and social studies, and making it clear what students need to do to prepare for these exams. Our assessments are going to be clearer and more open than ever in our history. We're no longer going to have tricky question types or even a guessing penalty or obscure vocabulary. We're telling everyone what's on the exams well before the exams are introduced. And in fact, full SAT specifications and extensive sample materials were available 2 years prior to the first exam going live next spring. And so with that, we're working together with our assessments to provide useful benchmarks as well as consistent feedback for measuring students' progress over time, which really allows for students and teachers to really find out where they are and how they're progressing through the system through the various assessments that we offer, which include our PSAT 8-9 exam, which for students who take that in schools that sign up for this is really serving as a foundation for understanding on the student progress as they enter high school. And then the PSAT 10, or the NMSQT, which is equivalent to the National Merit Qualifying Exam, which is given at the 11th year. But that really serves as a check-in on student progress and sees for areas that they could use for improvement on leading up to the actual SAT exam, which is that powerful connection to college. And so students, how do they improve that personalized practice component? And as I said, we're making it easier through free, personalized, focused practice resources for all students. And a big part of that is our partnerships with the classroom teachers and Khan Academy. And these practice resources really supplement the best way to prepare for the SAT through great classroom instruction. But also with Khan Academy, we're really removing barriers that students and families face in accessing high-quality practice resources for both the PSAT and the SAT. And so Khan Academy actually offers teachers a new partner in their hard work to prepare students for college. And we also offer the free practice resources, making sure that students have that personalized practice plan to strengthen the skills that are essential for their readiness. And one of the big partnerships then that we also have, besides our number of community-based organizations, is the Boys and Girls Club. Really make sure that with so many places and so many actual physical locations across the country, that students without internet connection can actually go to one of these sites, and with the staff there that are going to be trained on Khan Academy can really get students signed up, have internet access, and again have those resources to make sure that they are prepared for the exams. Affordability. How do I pay for college? College opportunity. And again, we're really trying to break down barriers to college through greater access to scholarships, fee waivers for all who need them, as well as AP credit. And building on our track record of delivering opportunity through the PSAT with national merit, we're committed to expanding our scholarship partnerships as well. In addition to connecting students to scholarships and recognition programs, the PSAT also identifies students with AP potential. And research shows that students who succeed in advanced placement courses in high school are more likely to succeed in college, which helps them save time and money through credit granting placement policies. Overall, in terms of addressing financial barriers to opportunity, the College Board has awarded over $78 million in SAT and AP program fee waivers each year. We give 4 college application fee waivers direct to every income-eligible senior who takes the SAT or the SAT subject exam using a fee waiver. And also the SAT school day program, which research has shown really helps access students' college-going rates by having access to that exam. And then career opportunity. How do I make sure what I do in high school prepares me for career? And a big part of that is really expanding access to better planning tools and skills to what matter most for jobs in the future, which especially includes coding and STEM areas. Our partnerships help students understand and invest powerful career options. Road Trip Nation, for example, is an authentic student exploration portal for college and career guidance that ties students directly back into the coursework and their plans for the future. With Google and DonorsChoose.org, we have launched the AP STEM Access Program to increase the number of underrepresented minority and female high school students who participate in AP courses, especially in the STEM disciplines. We're also committed to expanding access to STEM courses and careers to strengthen our nation's ability to compete in the global marketplace. And so we've actually recently announced the launch of our AP Computer Science Principles course, a course that's designed to give students foundational computing skills, programming literacy, and an understanding of the real-world impact of computing applications. And now transitioning a little bit more to the SAT. And here is a great little slide that just overviews how the SAT sections are going to be broken out. And so we are going to be having 3 overall sections, 2 main sections of the actual SAT, which will be evidence-based reading and writing, as well as a math section, whose points will be between 200 and 800 points on each of these 2 sections. The essay will be offered as a separate score, and I'll go over the scoring in just a little bit. And as the title of the presentation has mentioned, there are going to be some key changes to the SAT, and I'm sure that's what a lot of you are looking to find out more about. And so there are going to be 8 key changes to the overall SAT, as you can see here, and I'll go through each of these one by one. So relevant words and context. So the redesigned SAT is going to focus more on relevant words, really the meanings of which depend on how those words are used. So students will be asked to interpret the meaning of words based on the context of the passage in which they appear. So this demanding but rewarding work, but these are the words that students are going to be using throughout their entire lives, through high school, through college, and beyond. And so rather than really focusing on obscure words through test prep that students are never going to use again, it's really, again, going to be focused, having more students focus on the synthesization of an analysis of the passages and the types of questions they are reading. Command of evidence. So when students take the evidence-based reading and writing section of the exam, they'll be asked to actually demonstrate their ability to interpret, synthesize, and use evidence found in a wide range of sources. So these could be informational graphics. They could be multi-paragraph passages, excerpted from literature, literary nonfiction. They could be text from the humanities and science, history, social studies, or even career-related sources. So really, for every passage that a student reads, there will be at least one question asking them to select a quote from that text that best supports the answer they have chosen in response to the preceding question. So some passages will be paired with informational graphics, and students will be asked to integrate the information conveyed through each of those in order to find the best answer. The essay. The essay analyzing a source. So the focus of the essay is going to be very different from how the essay is now in the current SAT. Here, students will read a passage and explain how the author builds an argument. They'll need to support their claims with evidence from the passage, and this task really more closely mirrors what college writing assignments are like. And so the new essay section is designed to support high school students with teachers as they cultivate close reading, that careful analysis, and that clear writing which college so greatly expects of their students. And so it's really going to promote the practice of reading a wide variety of arguments and analyzing how authors do their work as writers. The essay prompt will be shared in advance and remain consistent. In fact, the only thing that's going to change is the source throughout every exam. And the essay is actually going to now then be the optional component of the SAT. So some schools will require it, some will not, and that's something that at the College Board we are analyzing right now to see which schools will be requiring that for their admissions purposes. Math focused on 3 key areas. So the exam is going to focus on these 3 essential areas of math. So the problem solving and data analysis, the heart of algebra, and the passport to advanced math. So problem solving and data analysis is all about quantitative literacy, using ratios, percentages, and proportional reasoning really to solve problems in science, social science, and career contexts. Now the heart of algebra focuses on the mastery of linear equations and systems, which students really develop those really key powers of abstraction. And that's really going to be used a lot through a lot of various math classes in college. And then the passport to advanced math really focuses on the students' familiarity with more complex equations and all of the different manipulations that they require. So right now, current research is showing that these 3 areas really contribute most for college and career readiness because they're going to be used disproportionately in a wide range of majors and careers. Now the SAT will sample from other topics of math, such as geometry, as there's been, but again, it won't be a key focus as it is with these 3 areas. Problems grounded in real-world contexts. So throughout the redesigned SAT, students will engage with questions grounded in the real world, questions that directly relate to the work performed in college and career. And so on the evidence-based reading and writing section, the reading questions will include literature and literary nonfiction, but also have charts, graphs, passages, basically things that they are likely to encounter in science, social science, other majors, or in those careers. Students will be asked to do more than just correct errors. They'll actually edit, revise, and improve text from the humanities, history, social science, and the career contexts as well. Analysis in science and social studies. As you've heard, I've said how these questions are going to be tied in throughout the entire exam, both on the evidence-based reading and writing, as well as math sections. But again, there are going to be components tied in throughout the entire exam, not necessarily testing students on their ability to have already previously seen science and social studies questions, but again, just give them familiarity with these types of questions that they're likely to see moving forward in college and career. So America's founding documents, such as the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, they're all rather short, but they have an inspired conversation that endures today. And so every time a student takes the redesigned SAT, they're going to encounter either an excerpt from one of these founding documents or a text from the ongoing great global conversation, which would be about anything about freedom, justice, and human dignity. In this way, we really hope that the redesigned SAT will inspire deep engagement with these texts that matter and reflect not only what is important for college and career, but also what is important for citizenship here and also around the world. And then lastly, the one key change that most students and high school counselors are excited about is that we are going to no longer have penalty for wrong answers. So we're moving forward to have a rights-based answering, and so there'll be 1 point for each correct answer, and then 0 points for unanswered or 0 points for wrong answers. And really this encourages students to give the best answers they have to every problem without having to go into the exam as an analytical, more of a strategic approach in terms of how to beat the exam and try to eliminate the most incorrect answers and guess to their best ability. But again, we want them to guess and put their best foot forward with how they tackle that problem in its context. So here's a comparison side by side of what the current SAT and the redesigned SAT look like in terms of the timing. So the current test is roughly 3 hours and 45 minutes of testing time. And the test, when it's redesigned, will be either 3 hours in total for the evidence-based reading and writing section and math, or roughly the same amount of time if students opt in to take that optional essay. Right now, the essay is offered at the beginning of the exam in section 1. Moving forward with the redesigned SAT, the essay will be at the end and will be double the time. It will be going from 25 minutes up to 50 minutes for the essay. As we have now is the critical reading, then the writing and essay and math sections. Again, that's going to be translated to evidence-based reading and writing, math, and the optional essay. I think I already jumped the gun here, but again, giving you a little bit more information about the essay. So again, it's going to be required and given at the beginning of the exam now, 25 minutes to write the essay. And now, moving forward, it will be 50 minutes, twice the time, and will be optional given at the end of the exam, really testing more on the analysis and writing skills and, again, how the author builds an argument. And just like we are redesigning the SAT, of course, we're also then going to be redesigning the PSAT and MSQT, which again stands for the National Merit Qualifying Exam. And the redesigned PSAT will first be administered this fall. So this October, when the PSAT is traditionally given, is when this new PSAT will be offered. Sample questions are already available. In fact, a full practice test just became available today. So students and teachers, faculty, they can start working with their students and getting access and practice to a full-length practice exam at this point in time, moving forward all the way up to October. And as I reviewed all of the key changes to the SAT, there are basically the same changes happening to the PSAT, with the one exception that you'll notice: there is no essay. The essay is not offered on the PSAT, but all the other 7 key changes are going to be relevant for the PSAT here. Scores. Scores are changing dramatically because we are going to be offering a wide variety of scores and also changing the entire point scale of the entire exam. As most of you probably know at this point in time, that the SAT is on a 2,400 point scale. We've been on that point scale for approximately the past 10 years when we last redesigned the exam. And so 800 for critical reading, 800 for math, and 800 for writing with 0 insight scores. What the new redesigned SAT is going to be is out of 1,600. So out of those 2 main sections, as we've mentioned, the evidence-based reading and writing section will be out of 800. The math section will be out of 800. And the essay will be on a separate scoring scale. In addition, which you'll see next, my next slide, is the addition of multiple insight scores. And here you go. So, as what most colleges are typically used to receiving are the section scores. They'll receive the critical reading and math score out of 800. Now we're going to offer a whole variety of other scores, which may or may not be used for admissions purposes, but down the road potentially could be used for placement purposes. So what we're going to be offering, what we've never done before, is offering a total score. So just a score out of 400 to 1,600 scale, basically those 2 sections combined. So this is useful for maybe admissions offices that don't super score their exams and just take the highest evidence-based reading and writing or math score together based off of each test date. They're not going to mix and match on various test dates. So that total score might be useful for those types of schools. Just like other schools have been receiving their section scores separately, schools will still receive those 2 scores out of 800. But in addition, with all those other changes and all those other sections or areas that are being going to be tested in the assessment, there will be an analysis in science cross-test score, as well as the analysis in history and social studies cross-test score. And again, because those are going to be tested both in the math and the evidence-based reading and writing sections, it's going to be a score that ties across both areas. In addition to that, we'll have the separate reading score, a separate writing and language score, as well as a separate total math score. And then from there, we'll even break it down to various sub-scores. So there's 3 focused areas in math, as I mentioned: the heart of algebra, passport to advanced math, and problem solving and data analysis. You'll have 3 various sub-scores there. Some of those which could be useful, for example, maybe a college who is looking for a placement score for maybe an engineering program or a math and computer science program. Maybe one of those scores could actually be helpful in terms of those placement areas. But also you have areas for words and context, command of evidence, expression of ideas, standard English conventions. Might be helpful for placement, and maybe not in level 1 for English language composition for freshman year of college, but might be able to place a student in a higher level depending on one of their scores. Now the essay scores, as I mentioned, are going to be on a separate scale, and 3 sub-scores will be offered for students who take the essay. So there will be a separate reading score, analysis score, and a writing score, each on a 2 to 8 point scale, because they're going to be evaluated by multiple evaluators when getting the score. But again, these are going to be 3 separate scores, and now colleges, because this is something they haven't seen before, if they are going to require the essay as part of admissions purposes, we'll need to figure out in terms of how these scores will be utilized in their overall evaluation assessment. Longitudinal progress monitoring. So another big change is the scoring of the PSAT. So now with the PSAT, we're going to be changing that scoring to be more in line with the SAT scoring on that 1,600-point scale. And so what you're seeing here is how the section scores will be placed on a vertical scale and how students can track their progress between the sections. So you'll see the PSAT 8-9, you'll see PSAT 10 and the NMSQT, as well as the SAT, and how they're aligned. But notice that they're not in complete alignment. For example, the SAT, as you've seen, is going to be between 200 and 800 points. However, the PSAT 10 and NMSQT will be ranged from 160 to 760. 760 will be the highest score a student can get if they ace the PSAT and NMSQT exam. Similarly, if a student takes the PSAT 8-9, the highest score that they can get if they ace the exam is a 720. Now, the reason behind that is because each of those exams is really meant to track the progress of how a student does and absorbs material through their high school years. And so when a student takes a PSAT 8-9, obviously the material in that exam is not going to have as many complex equations as the actual SAT. And so therefore, a student who, again, maxes out and aces or scores a perfect on the PSAT 8-9, 720 is the most they can do because there are going to be 80 more points that could be available if they took the SAT on that date, but those are not available on that exam because at the 8-9 level, we're not expecting students to have and master those complex equations that they would get once they enter their junior and senior year. And so really what this does, so in a practical sense, or more in a make-believe sense, but if a student takes all 3 exams at one sitting and they score a 600 on the PSAT 8-9 one day, that means if they took the PSAT 10 that same day, they would still expect to earn a 600. And if they took the SAT even later that day, they would still expect it to earn a 600 on the SAT. But if they took the PSAT 8-9 and scored a 720 and passed that and they aced it, that means if they took the next level PSAT, the highest score that they're going to get on that exam is 720 based off the complexity. And again, that the highest score that if they took the SAT that same day would be also a 720. So it's a little complex in terms of, again, the max scoring, but this does, again, be able to show students' progress on a vertical scale, going from 8th, 9th grade through the PSAT 10 if they take it, and then leading up to the SAT itself. So who is this going to affect? Today's sophomores will be the biggest group of students that will be affected by the redesigned assessment. So the class of 2017 is who we're speaking of there, because next fall, this fall when they are going to be juniors, will be taking the redesigned PSAT and NMSQT exam. And then most likely will be taking the redesigned SAT in March of their junior year, as well as if they take it again in the fall of their senior year. Now that's not to say that today's sophomores, or excuse me, today's juniors will not be affected. So class of 2017 sophomores, biggest class affected, but today's juniors, who next year will be seniors, could also potentially be affected. So if there are any colleges watching and they have seniors coming up in next year's class, they can expect most likely a good number of those students will just have taken the current SAT, because the current SAT will be available all the way through January of their senior year. But as we know, there are also some students that join the admissions process late for whatever reason. A lot of times we see it with athletic recruitment, which could potentially happen throughout the entire year. Those are types of students that if they take the current SAT, perhaps they took the current SAT in January, but then for NCAA eligibility or whatever purposes, they need to take the SAT again. And that means they would take the redesigned SAT. And if they're submitting their scores from the current SAT to the redesigned SAT to a college for admissions purposes, you could be potentially getting both. And as an admissions office would need to have a policy to understand which score, how the scores will be used for admissions purposes, but also any scholarship purposes as well. So not as common for this year's juniors, the class of 2016, but that is something to keep in mind moving forward with having scores being sent from both exams. Now, Khan Academy. I mentioned this a little bit earlier as well, but our partnership with Khan Academy was formally announced in March of 2014 when we announced the redesigned assessment of the SAT. And again, really the focus is going to be providing free, high-quality test preparation to all students anywhere, anytime. And so there's going to be training and support being provided to teachers, counselors, mentors, basically anybody that is involved with helping students prepare for the SAT. And there are high-quality practice resources for Khan Academy for the current SAT now, so it's not necessarily only for the redesigned SAT. Students can definitely, if they're going to be upcoming, taking the test in the fall, or excuse me, even in the spring, can go on there for assessment practice resources. But again, the redesigned SAT is really where this roadmap to success is really being built. And so it's the personalized roadmap that's under construction right now. We're hoping to have it live by June of this year. But really what it's going to be is, again, students can, if they take the redesigned SAT, for example, say that they take the redesigned SAT this October, they can opt in and have their College Board send their score profile directly to Khan Academy. And that will take all of the metadata from their exam. So all of those sub-scores and insight scores, that will help generate a personalized roadmap for that student to then focus on those areas of the exam that they need greater help with moving forward to taking the actual redesigned SAT. Students can also decide to download a full practice-length exam, and they can actually take the exam on a computer, or they can even download their score sheet where they fill in the bubbles. And that's what's being developed right now as well. So once a student actually takes the practice exam, they can take, with their smartphone, a picture of their scoring sheet, and they'll be able to upload to the Khan Academy site and actually have instantaneous scoring, but also, again, have that metadata information so the roadmap can actually create that personalized assessment, again, based off of those sub-scores in those areas that the student needs the most help on. For example, words and context or command of evidence. It will create that roadmap directly for them. So we're actually very excited about that, and again, that's hoping to launch, I believe, in early June of this year. This is just, again, the timeline, things I just covered with the roadmap. But again, the biggest thing is June is going to be the public launch. It says May here, but I think we're moving to the first week of June. And again, we're really excited to get as many mentors, coaches, counselors, teachers on board as well who can sign up to be Khan Academy coaches and sign into their students' accounts and really monitor their progress within the Khan Academy tool as well. Now, the redesigned SAT validity, again, making sure that this assessment is going to be doing what we expect it to be doing. We really want to make sure that there's not a huge jump in terms of how the scores are going to really shift or change going from the current SAT to the redesigned SAT. Our research team has been doing a lot of work making sure that this assessment is going to do what we intend it to do. And so what we've done, actually for college or questions to even show up on the SAT, we test those questions sometimes at least 2 years in advance before we even put that onto an actual College Board exam. Again, just a test to make sure that it's really testing what we want it to. But what we've done up to this point in terms of our predictive validity is we've actually had a number of pilot predictive exams happening. So students who are in college right now who have taken the current SAT, we have tested them with the redesigned exam, and we're going to be taking their scores based off the redesigned exam, how they did compared to their SAT when they were in high school, and also comparing that to what their first-year GPA is, again, to test validity, that predictive validity, and how well students do, and using the SAT assessment to predict first-year GPA. So that's ongoing studies right now that we hope to have more information on by the end of the year once their first-year GPAs are set and sent into our research office. But moving beyond this, we are also going to be focused on a national validity study. And so once the assessment is in full swing, starting in the year 2018, for any college that wants to sign up to be a part of the national validity study, we are gladly to have them do so and send us their information of enrolled students and students who took the assessment, again, to see how well the redesigned SAT has predicted their freshman cohort's success in terms of their first-year GPA. Just one last area that I forgot to mention a little bit earlier, but you see there on May 2016. So May 2016 is actually when we expect our concordance tables to be sent out. With the redesigned assessment, again, being tested in March, we are going to have a 2-month period of research to make sure that we can build very accurate concordance tables so that colleges that need to use these for admissions purposes or scholarship purposes can then concord between the old and the new SAT, as well as if they need to concord to the ACT as well. So all of those concordant tables will be sent out to colleges and high schools before the actual scores are sent to students so that colleges can be prepared for any questions that students may have about how their new scores will be relevant to that college's admissions standards. And with that said, delivering opportunity. Make sure you write that website down, but deliveringopportunity.org is going to be your best source of information for all information about the redesigned assessment. There we have the full test specs document. It's going to be a 200-page PDF document if any of you want some light bedtime reading, but actually get a sense of all the research that went into all of the different types of questions that we're going to be assessing. So again, full test specs of research there, but also having practice exams. The resources are there. For any colleges that want a sample PDF, or excuse me, a sample PowerPoint presentation that could be used for college nights for students and parents of their rising seniors, we have opportunities for colleges to take that and download and incorporate that into their own presentations. Again, because we really want to make sure as many people know about the assessment as possible. We want to try to be as open and clear about what is being tested and what students can expect, really to take as much anxiety out of the exam as possible. But that, I believe, is what I wanted to cover, which gives us, looks like about 20 minutes for Q&A if there are any questions. And I will hand it back over to Maggie.
Great. Thank you so much, Jim. We do have a couple of questions, and just a reminder, if anyone else has questions, if you can please post them on the bottom of your console. There is a chat/questions area. You can put your questions in there, and I will make sure that Jim gets them. So Jim, first question that came in through email. Rochelle is wondering if you could make your PDF available, which I guess would mean if you could send it to us and then we can make it available maybe on our website or send it out to members.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to turn this into a PDF, and I will send it off to you or Sarah, and I'll let you guys distribute that which way you see best.
Great. Thank you so much. There's also kind of several questions from Bernali, and I am going to try to give Bernali access. Hi, Bernali, and so he can so she can access herself. Or
sure.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. Hi, Jim. Thank you for the webinar.
Hi.
My question is about the new optional essay. You had mentioned that students will have 50 minutes to complete that optional essay. I was just wondering if there is a specific breakdown for how long the student has to read the source text and then write, or if that's just sort of up to each student.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the student has access to the entire passage and to the blank sheet where they're going to write their essay on for the entire 50 minutes. So it's basically whatever they do with the 50 minutes is completely up to them.
I see. Okay. And I can't remember if in the test spec document there was a model essay of any sort, or...
We do have, yeah, so the actual prompt, the essay prompt is there.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if there was like a mock kind of like model essay or response.
I don't know if there is one in the test spec document, but later this year as we move forward, I think by the summer, we're going to have at least 4 full practice exams available to students to practice on, and so that will be an opportunity at that point to really get real-world practice.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, there's another question from Laura, and she says, is there a document that will compare the new SAT to the old SAT scores to see what the old scores will compare to?
Sure, yeah, so you're speaking of what the concordance table will be, and so the concordance tables are going to have what the current SAT scores are and how they concord to the new SAT scores, in addition to how those scores will be concorded to the ACT, especially for those colleges who receive both ACT and SAT. So it'll be very easy for colleges to really take the score and utilize it to match their standards that they're used to. The concordance, however, is not going to become available until we actually have the actual first load of test takers. And so as I said before, when the test takers take the exam, I think it's the second week of March in 2016, we're going to be assessing all of that data, and then 2 months after that, sometime in May of 2016, we will send out those concordance tables to really compare the current SAT scores to the concorded, or excuse me, to the redesigned scores, and that will be sent out to our members before the actual scores are sent out. So colleges are prepared on how to answer those questions and what one score equals to another score.
So Laura, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, make sure that your question was answered. Or do you have any follow-ups? Laura? Oh, maybe the sound is not working. I assume that question was answered. So, yes, she says my question was answered. There's a question here from David. Is the price of the SAT going to remain the same?
That's a good question, David. We actually are still waiting to find out what the pricing of the exam will be. We're waiting for a vote on with the Board of Trustees, which we're expecting hopefully not too far out. But just initial rumors that we're hearing is that the price of the exam should not change very much at all. If anything, again, this is just purely speculative rumor, is that for students who just take the SAT without the essay, that the price should go down a little bit. But for those students who take the SAT with the essay, the price should relatively be the same. Again, we are waiting to hear word from our own Board of Trustees, so we actually don't know on our end yet.
And David has a follow-up question. Will the SAT continue to be a handwritten test, or will there be an option to answer it using a computer?
That's another really great question. It's going to be both, potentially. At this point in time, we are looking to pilot a few computer-based SAT exams. The big drawback, again, is going to be resources. At a lot of our testing sites, they're not going to have the opportunity to have the technological resources to actually test. But there will be a few sites we're going to work with. Majority will still be paper-based, but yes, there will be some computer-based in some areas.
Great, thank you. I don't see any more questions. So, thank you, Jim, for your very informative presentation. And this will conclude the NSPA webinar today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.